Hello, welcome to Flow with Flo with
Jamaal.
Hello. Let's just get going. Yeah. Well, you can do your full name if you like.
No, that's fine. Jamal's fine.
Okay, Jamal's fine.
Another Jamaal, actually.
Okay, let's do full name.
Jamaal Burkmar. There we go. Yeah, my dad will like that. It's his surname.
And your company?
Extended play, dance.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to take this off now because I know that I'm going to be...
Yeah, sure.
I don't trust myself. Okay, it's going to ruin the effect. It looks like a cool mic otherwise. That'll pick up the sound. Okay, so you have just premiered a piece.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. Tell us about it. The piece where it premiered.
We premiered in Leicester at the Curve, which is where I'm from, which was interesting. Someone once told me that saying interesting is a lazy thing to do because it just sort of is like a placeholder for actually what you really mean, but I'm just going to hold with interesting. The piece was called How to Build a Universe. We're on tour now, so the premise of the show is that these 5 people wake up in the middle of nowhere in a void, and then they're tasked with building a new universe, and then this voice that's guiding them through it decides to get really spiteful and throw some guests at them at the end to say, look, if you think you can do it without me, here's some people, see if you can do it with them. And so every venue we go to, we invite local, I've been calling them local heroes, people who are dancers or not dancers, once danced, have never danced, want to dance, just people who want to do something creative. And so for this show we had some students from DMU, but we also had my mum and a few of her friends who I would say have been creative most of their lives, but maybe just don't get the chance to access it. So they would come the morning of the show. We do a workshop together, and then we perform that evening. And they finish the whole show. They do the finale, the final 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, so they workshop with you before. Just
2 hours, yeah.
No, so it's not like they just sort of come on.
No, yeah. There's a workshop, and then a journey into when they come on.
Yeah.
But then they're supposed to not know where they are, so that we try and keep that as much. No one's supposed to know where they are. The dancers don't know where they are. They don't know where they are. So so we just give them as much information as we can. And now we've done one. We're okay, cool, it works. It's not we need a week's rehearsal or something. So but that's the show. And
what was the process like for that? How have you made it? Where's it touring?
The process, that one's been sort of ongoing. I was sort of devising the technique sort of unconsciously back in 2021, and then we were doing another work, and then starting on this last year as an outdoor show and as a show for schools and playgrounds, so that young kids could kind of make the choreography. So we made a little duet that went around. It did a giant tour last summer. Was it last summer? No, because we're in 24 now. Summer of 22.
Yeah.
And that was kids got to decide what the choreography was, basically. And so the process of that was that we finally got in the studio to make the theatre show last year. And then now we're going on a tour, and we're going to try and book more tour dates. Donuts was the last show I made, Donuts, was a giant tour. It's going on its 4th year of touring now. It's going to rural touring. And so this one, because it's a bigger show, it's slightly more ambitious. Obviously, not slightly, quite a lot more ambitious. And then there's this giant participation element. That one's we're easing into touring this one, because I think we can't just sort of do what we did last time, trying to do 10 dates in less than 2 months, basically.
I guess also you've got to find the local heroes.
That's a big part of it. I think we've also got to explain that bit. Before it was we've got this show, this is my name, this is the CV I have, blah 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 blah. And now it's okay, bear with me, we've got this thing that we want to do. And so I think it's good for people for venues. We're going to Gloucester at the end of February, and they're really trying to build audiences and look at the community, and so we're really engaging with their like community to do that show.
Yeah, I guess it's a nice community show as well because you don't have to like you can actually get people involved, so people that don't necessarily like just sitting and they can also.
I think it's like some people get to see there's 2 tickets. One ticket is just the end on performance, and then the other is being in it, basically.
Yeah, and then sort of deeper into the process, if we look at your usual technique of making in the studio, so would you consider yourself like the choreographer, the director? How does that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know. I think ultimately I just get to do whatever I want when I want. Sometimes I take like a really hands-on role in sort of saying, you go here, you do this, you do that. Other times I like to just let the environment flow. There's a lot of improv in the work that I have. I wouldn't ever say I have rules. I would just always say I have like principles. I think I talk a lot about what matters to me so that they understand that, and that informs certain like decision making. I've always been quite fluid in terms of thinking about, I'm writing a play now. I've never written a play before. I wrote 2 TV shows last year, and I'm like trying to do something with those long term. So every day is a different day, right? Like I'm just doing. I don't know. I don't think if I said what I was, I'd probably be wrong, basically.
Yeah, and it would change the next day. Maybe it's what you are today.
Yeah.
But not tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we were speaking a little bit before about looking in like leadership and what that looks like.
Yeah.
In the studio.
Yeah. Someone once told me that I was like a football coach. That like I was trying to. That I would do just enough that the players on the pitch could take over. So that, and I think that maybe is the best way to. I've had different processes. I'd say that like the last sort of 3 processes I've had. This one, the work for Verve, and then I did another work between that. I can't remember the company now, but those have been like. There's been hierarchy there. I'm saying this is the vision I have. Let's do this. And then in other projects, I'm like, what do you guys want to do? So I think my relationship to leadership again is like it's what's needed for each project that I've done. But it's an interesting like journey I'm having because it's people's relationship to that word is so different. When I was training. The hierarchy was so clear, you were bottom of the barrel, like, as a dancer. It was, just as a viewer, and like when I was a young dancer, and then going to Northern, and then when I got to Northern, that energy was still kind of there, like you were to be instructed, and then it's like morphed and morphed. So there's I don't know if anyone's really paid attention to that, like. Drastic shift in leadership, and there's an interesting thing that I feel really lucky because I deferred a year at Northern because I did a foundation. I was there for 5 years, and I was going to say, can I talk about this? I can talk about whatever I want. I was there at the end of the previous headmistress tenure, and I was there when there was no one, and then I was there at the beginning of the next headmistress's tenure, Janet, so Gurmit and then Janet. And like that's 5 years of people who know those people know that those are 2 very different types of leaders, and so it's quite an interesting shift that I think not only happened there but happened like industry wide in how people consider leadership and things of that nature. But I don't know what the schools are like now. I don't go there.
It's very like I think they teach you to try. I guess I can only speak from my experience rather than what they're actually attempting. But so to be your own person, look after yourself, make your own decisions.
Yeah. I don't remember that when I first got there.
Yeah.
Not that this isn't like because lots of the teachers who were there when I first got there are still there. I don't know if the culture of making art, especially in theatre and dance, was that encouraging. But I watched that like move over.
It's definitely when I speak to people, I do notice that nowadays I feel like young dancers have more. Are sort of trained to have more agency over what they do.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
and
for
I guess
sure.
also, and that's not necessarily saying what's good or bad. I mean, but just sort of what's changed. Yeah, people definitely.
Yeah, I would say I don't think it was ever spoken. I don't know if it was ever, but it was pretty obvious to us what was good and bad. Like, what was like something you should strive to achieve, but which is crazy because I know people who have joined companies straight away, done postgrad straight away, waded in the water and done nothing for a long time, and they're all having successful careers in their own right. I know other people that have left. Didn't Paloma Faith go to Northern? Like,
I think
she like left
behind the camera nodding. Yeah.
She was there, I believe, under the head teacher that I started with. And so I think she left as I'm done. I don't think anyone marks her career as unsuccessful.
And one of the Spice Girls.
Yeah, Mel B.
Mel B.
She lives in Leeds. You can catch her anytime.
Hey Mel.
Sorry. Yeah. I used to see her all the time. But she probably doesn't live there now, but years ago I was like, oh, that's Mel B. Yeah.
But I think it's also different though, because before they were training you to be in a company, but now there's really not many full-time companies, like at all.
No.
So there's no point training someone for that if they're then going to be a freelancer.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because you're essentially you're going. I don't know if that's okay, I'm saying I don't know. I want to be really clear. So I don't know if that's a failure that there are less companies now and that there are less institutions to join and less full-time work, but ultimately you're having to adjust to that. And I don't know if the question should be like, how do we get back to that? And I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a full-time company. That's not what I'm striving towards necessarily, or maybe I don't know. But ultimately, that's an interesting question that we just have to keep adjusting to.
Yeah. I also don't know if we should be striving for that.
No,
I mean, I don't think currently I don't want to be in a full-time company. Don't want to say never say never, but it's not.
I'm all means striving to have those options. I think it's I don't know how concerning it is that it's way more free. It's everyone's. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Someone should have an idea of what we should do.
Someone to do.
Yeah.
I think also it's just a symptom of not having money in the sector, as well as a symptom of people wanting more agency over their art, I guess.
Yeah. I can't expand.
Someone's gonna have to write an essay on it. We'll read it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I'm like, I've never seen anything but a Tory government, so I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it as well.
Ooh,
I was 19, I think, when Gordon Brown was out and Cameron was in. So yeah, that's all I've ever known.
That was 2000.
Let's not do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
2010, 2009, 2008. No, I was.
So I would have been. I think I was 6.
How old are you now?
20.
Yeah, 14.
So yeah, about right.
Yeah, 17, 18. So yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Crafting your movement.
Yeah. What about it?
How do you craft your movement? Is it for movement's sake? Is it for meaning's sake? I know we spoke a little bit about movement.
I hate that those two things are separate.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me that like I think that's such a and this isn't you. I know that's how people talk about movement. And someone said I got feedback for a job I didn't get, and they were like, it felt like movement for movement's sake, and I was like, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Can I?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
cool. I was like, what the fuck do you mean?
Yeah.
What could that possibly mean? It's the art form is dance, like.
Yeah.
I just think that's a crazy thing to say. I think it's an utterly crazy thing. That's a crazy thing to say.
It's quite a big thing though, isn't it? Talking about movement for movement's sake, or movement for like.
The idea that any movement doesn't have what are we talking about? It's such a weird thing for dancers and choreographers and people in that world to look at an art form that starts and begins with the body and then question that any of it doesn't have meaning. Like it all has meaning. Even if you worked really hard to try and take out all meaning, there would still be meaning. That boggles my mind, and I hear it all the time. When I hear it, I'm like, who are you? I want to ask people if they're a dancer or not. I'm like, what does that mean? Anyway, that's not you. I've heard that for years, and I'm like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, to be fair, I don't really know either.
Jackson Pollock got away, has done this for years.
Yeah.
And people attribute so much meaning to his work, and it's just him flicking you know, flexibility. It's just like, so back to your question. How does it happen?
And I guess also, because we were speaking about crafting movement,
So it's so I love people's instincts. I think that I remember quite a lot of my training. There was a lot of like, I'm sure you've done this, like a choreography class or an improv class where someone would say like, don't go with your first choice, go with your second choice.
Yeah, I did that last weekend.
Right, it's such a classic thing to do, and it's, I think when you're a student, it's the perfect thing to do, because essentially your gaze is this, and training should be about this, right? And sometimes I think what people mistake this is, of like widening your gaze, as like shifting your gaze, and that's ultimately not it. Like, I loved football when I was growing up, I loved the music that I loved, that is a firm part of the world that I've built, but like my gaze is bigger now. And so, for me, I really like working with artists that I trust the instincts of. So I have a process where they're allowed to really dance on top of this world that I have here. So, in terms of crafting movement, I only have two words. I say yes and I say no. I don't really say like, do this or do this. It's just yeah or no. And then what I might offer is like, I might use the sound or use space. You know, if the space opens up, I'll say there's something about this space that means something to me. Can you think about it this way? Or there's something about this level or this sound or this relationship. So my thing is like, those are my key tools. But in terms of crafting movement, I tend to leave that up. I don't think I've ever gone up to someone and said, I'm thinking about this shape.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I've ever done that. What I will obviously do a lot of is like, you know, if you're making, I might go, could you do what they're doing? So there's a link there. But in terms of crafting movement, it's just like, it's just I have a really clear world that belongs to space, music, timing, interpersonal relationships with the dancers, the audience, attention, you know, where's the attention line each moment? And then I have, those are all my things that I'm dealing with, and then I'm asking you to just dance on top of that, basically. So that's how we craft, we craft together the movement.
And that ties quite nicely into, so how long have we been filming for?
Like maybe 20 minutes-ish?
20 minutes-ish? Perfect, thank you. That ties quite nicely into a question that someone asked on my Instagram.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I think I mentioned to you, people have asked things on Instagram, and I'm just going to quick fire a couple questions.
Okay, cool.
So we'll start with that one. I've got my book.
That one, yeah.
So that one, you know, read my mind, that's fine. So when did you know that you were devising a technique? When did you start to think it was a technique?
Do you know, I've been making since 2012, but I would say 2021 was the first. So it took like 9 years. And when did I know specifically? I think it just sort of like was there in front of me one day. I went, oh, this is it. And then I started really working on it.
Yeah.
I think it was just, is this supposed to be quickfire? Is that like you want me to be?
To be honest, I'm quite interested, so you can just.
I think that the two things I felt like any artist should be asking themselves, but I was certainly asking myself, were like, who am I? So what's my voice? And then like, what means a lot to me outside of that? So like in terms of the craft, and those are the things I just kept asking myself. So you know, I see something happen, I go, oh god, I really love when that happens, or I really love when this relationship happens, or I really love when this bit of music is played with, and then you just sort of keep ticking it off. All the while, sideline to that, you're going, who the fuck is Jamaal Burkmar? What means a lot to him as a person and as an artist and as a human being? And so those two things weren't fluid. Those things were very fluid, and sometimes one's ahead of the other, sometimes one's behind the other. And then one day it all just like landed, and I went, oh great, cool. And then I was honing on it. Like 2021 was sort of like, there's a really important month that I talk about a lot, which was January of 2021, which was I was working with Phoenix. Lockdown was in and out. We were in tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. There was a really weird moment when Leeds and North Yorkshire was the only place in the whole country in tier 2.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
It's such an odd moment in time, and so like we were still like around around one another and still talking. Like
I've blocked all of this
yeah,
out.
same.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julia.
No, it's okay.
But then in January of 2021, the company, I think the country went back into tier 3, so you could work if you could only get to work. But because of that, Phoenix were allowed to send their dancers away and say, here's the furlough pay. And because I was working there, I couldn't be furloughed because I was a freelance. And I was like, can I just have the space? And if I get a core bubble of people, we'll work together. And so there's a group of people who just were like desperate, because of course we all were. And so that month in January, it was 4 weeks. We didn't make a piece. We didn't show anything to anyone. We just like every day came in and like did this process. They wanted it, I wanted it, and it was like this nice two-way street. And yeah, man, like 4 weeks. There was like 11 of us in the room every day for 4 weeks, and we just all committed to ourselves a little bit. And that was probably the month when I was like, oh, this is a process.
Because your technique's very, like, it's very clear that it's yours.
Sure.
It's very
That's good, because I've seen a couple people try and do
really?
it. Yeah.
Do you want to say
They've told me. No. They've told me. They've been like, oh, I do your technique in the studio. And I'll be like, okay. Thank you for. Can you tell everyone else as well?
Give some credit.
Yeah, the choreographic part of it, the repeating music, the space thing, the letting it, like the sort of forcing people out of their heads. Like I can't own that. I can't own music on repeat. But I'm like, when someone told me, I was like, oh, okay. Cool, thanks. And they came to a free workshop, so I was like, I didn't even get money from that person. But
get something from like the. I don't know.
If they win an award, I'm like, I want a text message, dude. But anyway, it's fine.
A text at least.
But yeah, sure. I get you. Yeah, that process is mine.
Yeah, and I think that's sure, maybe you can't own it, but like it is yours.
I don't also just. Did you know about that mathematician that won the big? I think he won a Nobel Prize for finding this really incredible mathematical formula. Like he proved it. I can't remember. I think he's a Russian dude, and he won the prize, and the prize was like $1 million or something. He was like, no, thank you. He was like, it already existed. I just had this. I just got lucky, and I had this gift and this timing and the attention to like find it. And so I kind of feel the same with all of this. Like someone else could have done it. So it's not mine.
I would take it.
I'd take it. I got places to go.
Got places to go. Okay, right. Next, first piece you made and what's changed since then?
The first piece I made was it wasn't. I made a piece called Ocean that everyone knows me for because I was a student, and then Verve bought it when I was still a student. So it was like it was a bit of a drag. Like it was amazing to do, but then it was like I was like I didn't really have a choice. I was like, oh, so I'm a choreographer then. It was kind of how that felt. But before that, I made a piece called Accretion, which was the disc that was allegedly, I don't know what you believe, but allegedly there's a big disc in space, and it's pulling, the size of it is pulling all these rocks to it, and that's what formed the core of the Earth and the Earth. And I made that with a dancer called Daniela May, and we did that together. So that was the first piece. And what's changed? I mean, a lot. We couldn't answer that quick fire. A lot.
And I guess we've already covered quite a lot of things with what that is. Okay, and then someone has asked how to know if you're on a good track.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I know when I have something. I think I know when I have a good idea. I don't think I know when I'm on a good track. I think I practice radical honesty with myself. So I was just saying I'm writing this play now, and I was so pleased. I wrote like 180 pages in a few days. I was like, fuck, this is great. It's pouring out. And then read it through yesterday, and I was like, this is shit. This is terrible. So I think for me, just like, I don't trust a lot of people. Oh God, how do I say this in a way that won't ruin my career? I don't trust a lot of like people's judgment on what's good and bad at the minute. I've really lost the thread on. Have you seen the Barbie stuff?
Yeah.
She didn't get nominated, Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And that, what's his name? Ryan Gosling did.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that that's like irks me a little bit, where I go, like it's an award for your ability to do a role. It's not your award. It's not a narrative award. It's not like the whole thing bothers me. I'm like, that's not like. So I don't necessarily trust it. I think radical honesty for me has been the best thing. And I think the worst thing is like looking at an idea and going, this is a good idea, which we're all faultful, and then thinking that's enough. Like, I know that this play that I'm writing, I'm like, the core of it is great, I love it. But then when I started writing it, I was like, this is so shit. And I think you can get in the habit of going, yeah, but the heart of the story, it means so much, it matters. But I'm like, yeah, but the writing isn't just not there yet.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like holding, I used to have this analogy about Barack Obama, that like, I guarantee the day he thought he could be president and the day he said out loud, I think I could be president, are 2 different days. Because you have to like protect your fire a little bit. You have to have a little belief, and you have to cover it the whole way, and then ready when you're like, okay. Because if you say it too early, someone goes, no, you couldn't. Then maybe there's no Barack Obama. And so it's like with any idea, I'm like, let me just cover it. Let me just like do this with it. I know it's good, and I'm not gonna let anyone else look at it. And the mistake I think I've made is when I've gone, I've got this idea, what do you think? And then they're like, I don't get it. And I go, shit, okay. So yeah, I think like when you know you've got a good idea, protect that feeling, and then after that, just be really, really honest with yourself when you start working. Be hurt, like make yourself cry. Like I stressed out yesterday. I read through the script and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I was going, this is gonna, well, I was like, I posted about it on Instagram. I was like, what have I done? I've put myself in a trap. This is
also,
so
I think
bad.
you put yourself in a good position, because on Instagram you're like, I might take it, I might take it down.
But also I'm like, it's there now.
Yeah, I can't take it back.
Yeah, there's a guy in 2 years who's gonna go, remember you talk about that play? And I'm like, yeah, it has to happen now. The worst thing is talking about ideas and then 6 months like dropping it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've rambled, but that's...
No, that's fine. So this one is a classic.
Yeah.
Process of choosing dancers. I guess also, yeah.
I don't know. I don't really do... I don't know. I like a mix. I like some people who are really young and are just starting out and are hungry and like, I want to give up. And also I don't like the 5 years of experience thing, which I don't think anyone likes anymore, but I also like having a few like quite established people. So the group we've got now is great. You've got Fern, who's just finished with Punch Drunk and is pretty established, like I think could pretty much work for anyone at this point if she fit the role. You had Pablo and Isaiah, who sort of come out of school in the last couple of years.
We love Pablo.
You love Pablo, yeah, Pablo's great. Pablo's is great. Pablo's dropped a few one-liners in the last week that were very funny. But yeah, I don't know. I know we audition, but I don't know.
You sort of see what happens.
Yeah, I think I have that question for other people still, so I am still working that one out myself.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And then, when did your work begin to get noticed? And I guess you've answered that verb.
Straight away, yeah. It was a bit annoying, yeah. Early.
Why annoying?
It's just way too soon. It's like, do you remember Sixth Sense? The movie Sixth Sense? Yeah, it was a great movie. It's a great idea. I see dead people. And then it's a bit like, yeah, but was M. Night Shyamalan as good a director as that movie was as good an idea? I don't think he was. And I just think the first 3-4 years after that, I needed space and time to be terrible, but everything I did and every conversation I had was laced with like, oh my God, you made Ocean when you were a student. And then I won the New Adventures Awards. Like the first 2 years of my career, I think the expectations heavily outweighed like where I was at personally. Yeah, that's all. It's just a bit like it's too young. It's way too young. That's it.
And that is all of the ones on the Instagram.
Great.
Do you have anything else you want to cover?
No. I mean, whatever you want.
I think we've got loads. Should we do the outro?
Is that everything?
That's everything.
Oh, okay, cool.
We've covered all of it.
Cool.
And it goes so quick, doesn't it? But it's been like half an hour. What time is it? Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I thought you just chatted. Great, cool.
We've got it.